Hey, this is Josh at Mouse Gun Works. Good afternoon. I was working on a CZ, I believe it's a 712, and just wanted to show you some things we ran into. I want to show off my new flag here. Folks from my generation will readily get the joke. Those of you who don't, Google it. Anyway, CZ 712 looks to be good shotgun. Nice walnut stock, got a good finish on it. Walnut forend, beautiful. This is semi-automatic, polished bolt. First thing we're going to do, make sure the weapon's clear. Pull it open. Feel up in here. There's no shells in the magazine. Good to go. All right. Put it on safe. Actually, we're going to drop the bolt. Here we go. Put it on safe. I'm going to show you how to disassemble it too. Big nut here on the end. You're going to kind of pull down on the foregrip. It shouldn't move, but it's just to retain it because it is under spring tension. Take that off. Okay. And then the barrel, when the bolt goes home, there's two lugs that meet up. So we need to pull this back. Barrel should pop right off. Your gas ring is right there. And that goes right there in the barrel. When you're cleaning, you're going to want to pull that out, spray it with some solvent and clean it. Okay, now your bolt, I'll show you after it's taken out, but there's some stuff that you need to line up to take the handle, the charging handle out. It can be a little tricky to get everything lined up. As I said, it can be a little tricky. Sometimes you need to take and cover the charging handle in a towel and use a pair of pliers to get a little more leverage. So, finally got the charging handle out. You can see it's a pin with a flat, and after you get that out, the action bar right here and the bolt and the carrier are all connected, and they will fall, as you just saw. So what I was doing this over my desk in case they fell. I didn't want them to hit the floor, but it all sits like this. Okay, and there's a round hole that will slide back and forth, and it's difficult to get that lined up just perfect. But there's also, you can't see it very well, but there's a spring-loaded ball detent in there, and the charging handle has a little divot cut out right there that goes into that ball detent and holds it all in place. Anyway, from there, spring comes off, magazine tube. If you wish, there's a spanner nut right here. And take a brass punch, grab one of the sides of this lug, and gently pound it to rotate it. This collar, this end of the forend sits in it. Okay, holds that all together real nice, protects the edge of the wood. And then it just threads out of the receiver, much like a Mossberg 500. So, but anyway, that is the tear down of for like a field strip. If you wish to remove the trigger group, it's a simple taking one pin out operation. I'll go ahead and do that here. I like to make sure that these are always in the safe position. That way, if I accidentally pull the trigger, I don't dry fire the trigger mechanism without it being up against an abutment like the bolt, because you can really damage your trigger group dry firing it that way. So this just rotates down and forward. There's your trigger group. I would strongly encourage you to not disassemble this unless you most absolutely have to. There's not as many pins and springs on this one as there are on, say, a Remington 870, but they can be a challenge to put back together. So when you go to put this in, you're gonna rotate it in, okay? And they're easier to reassemble if you make sure that the hammer is back. Okay. All right, everything's back in position, very nearly. Notice I'm using something soft to pound that back into place. Some of these have very precise fit, so that's that. So I'll tell you what we ran into and I'll share reassembly. So the way this is designed, this ring here rides on the magazine tube, retains the recoil spring, and it's welded to these legs, and these legs come back and catch the bolt carrier. Okay, this weld broke. It wasn't very thick. In my opinion, it was just a poor weld. The owner said he put about 500 rounds through it, and then this failed. I took this to a friend of mine who has taught welding for many years. He's done some gunsmithing, and he informed me that this is a common CZ problem. If you own one of these and this hasn't failed, it probably will. And you just need to be prepared to find someone to weld it back in place for you. The thing I ran into, though, is when you weld metal together, sometimes because of the heat, it will distort. And this, I'm going to use a screwdriver here. This went from being straight to slightly tipped, okay? So now when I put it on, it's pinching on the magazine tube and it's not operating correctly. So what we ended up having to do was come in here with a Dremel tool, and I put it on the receiver. I put some marker in here, and I ran it down the receiver, and I saw the spots that it was rubbing because it rubbed the marker off. And then I took the sand disc, and I just went in there and hit it with the sand wheel, and I did that until it ran smooth, and then I did it one additional time just to be sure, and then I took some polishing compound with one of the polishing wheels and I polished it up. Okay, so what we have now is a shotgun that operates smoothly. When you have the part that gets repaired in a welding process, you got to fit it. Okay, you can't just put it back together and throw it in a gun cabinet. You got to fit it, because things are going to distort. They're going to move. This part may have been slightly distorted from the get-go, and now that we've welded it back together, it was even more. And because they were making a production shotgun and not a custom shotgun, it may have slipped through quality control. So CZ is a good, reputable company. They make good firearms. I'm not saying anything bad about CZ, but nobody's perfect, and sometimes things slip through the cracks. So that was for him, a simple repair. Like I said, I'm not that good of a welder. So anyway, do reassembly here. Magazine tube, recoil spring, recoil spring goes on. Action bar, we're going to pull the spring down. Action bar goes over. And I like to just hold it in place because I need to take my bolt carrier, okay? This has a tail. The tail goes toward the back. And there's a notch right there. That notch goes onto that lug right there. Okay? And as you look in there, you'll notice there are some channels, and the legs of this carrier go in those channels just like that. The bolt, your extractor, needs to go toward the muzzle, back of the firing pin toward the back of the gun. Slips right over and put it in. Okay. Now, inserting this silly charging handle is typically a whole lot easier than taking it out. So again, I'm going to line up my cuts here. I've got that started, all right, and I want to have the curve and the knurling on it facing away from me. That way when I go to grab it, I've got some good grip. I'm going to push that until it clicks, and it operates. When you're doing this, you don't have the barrel on, try not to let it slam forward, because eventually you'll break this off or you'll start dinging up your receiver pretty badly. So I go to put the barrel on. I like to pull the gas ring out, put it on over the magazine tube, put the barrel and everything. Okay, so like I said, we're going to pull the bolt back. You see this shiny part here on the barrel? That's the extension that goes into the receiver. So we want to get that sunk all the way home and just let the bolt fly forward. It'll catch the barrel, hold it in place. Four-in goes on. There is a little bit of play there, but not a ton. Okay. Now this cap here has a ball bearing detent in it, and there are scallops inside of there. I don't know if you can see them very well. Apologize if you can't, but they will catch that ball bearing. And that just goes back together like that. Do a function check. Now, since I've dropped the hammer, I pull this back, it should hold open. And it does. Push the button here, bolt should go home. And it does. Good to go. So, hope you guys have found this informative. If you have any questions, please let me know. I love having discussions with you guys. Hope to see you again on the next one. Have a good day.